Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Hello. Okay, here we go. Hello, Gill. Hello, Truth and Justice. Hello, Monica. Hello, Dean Walker. Just us chickens. Let's talk about Karen Reed and her pathological lying. This should be the refrain of anti-Karen Reed everywhere is Karen Reed's pathological lying. You just saw it in the opening. We all know who did it. We all know. No, we don't know. We don't know who did it. There's a good example of some of her eyebrow raising and contradictory statements. So many of them were on display in her retrial, her contradictory and self-incriminating statements. But this should be the phrase of every anti-Karen Reed, the refrain, let's win the civil trial. Let's get these witnesses together and let us all come together and make sure that their testimony, that they give the best depositions possible, the best testimony possible, and take matters into their own hands. Instead, what we have is a refrain from this side that the feds are coming, the feds are coming, the feds are coming. And like I said, I think it's a nothing burger. And if I'm wrong that it's not a nothing burger, there is nothing that we can do about it. Wishing, hoping, praying that it will come is not going to make it come. And if it does come, which I don't think is likely, I think that Jessica Leslie has been made an example of. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, of course, I'm talking about the grand juror who sat on the Karen Reed trial, that she has been given a sweetheart deal with the feds. It's not so sweetheart. I hear she's lost her social work job for sharing grand jury information. Maybe connected to the CDL, meaning commercial driver's license scandal, or it may be connected to Karen Reed. Either way, the evidence that the feds are coming for Karen Reed and Aidan Carney, because the real crime here is sharing secret grand jury testimony, not receiving it. If they are coming, I don't think so. I don't think they are. But should I be wrong about this? It's nothing that's going to change anything concerning the civil trial and getting justice for John O'Keefe. It's not a substitute. So I wanted to look at Kate Peter has a new video out about it. She's determined that the feds are coming, although she does put a question mark. The title of her video is "The Feds Are Coming for Karen Reed and Turtle Boy." We're going to look at that today. Also, some interesting leaks out of Free Karen Reed. could there be I guess I'll just say it out loud. There are allegations that Karen Reed was receiving cash every morning. They were throwing cash in her car from Free Karen Reed. Is that true? Is this ever going to be investigated? You know, the point of all this possible illegality in Free Karen Reed would be hugely unpopular to go after. You know, this is one of the reasons I don't think the feds are going to do anything. First of all, they're never going to attack Karen Reed's lawyers, and the lawyers are always going to protect themselves from wrongdoing in this case, even though that we know that they were leaking or leaking information, asking journalists not to share information until they leaked it in a filing, a motion. So to make it look like that this journalist got it from, meaning Gretchen Voss, who wrote about this case in a very way favorable to Karen Reed initially. She's another real snake in the grass in this whole story. She's also one of the people who got a bunch of the witnesses in this case signed up, including the O'Keefe family, to the Netflix documentary, which again, I think is going to be a big flop. And I don't think it's going to be enough to change the narrative of this case. The best option left is winning the civil trial. And the way it's going now, it's looking like Karen Reed is gearing up for it. And very interesting turn of events that Judge Cannoni has moved off of criminal cases onto civil cases. Judge Cannoni could possibly sit on the civil, can we think of a worse judge on the civil trial in this case? So let me share. Witnesses, get your evidence together is my message. And will we see any of the real evidence? Because in this case, in the civil case, Karen Reed cannot claim the fifth. She's already been prosecuted criminally. So I don't know how easy it will be for her to take the fifth in this case. And if she does, it's going to look awfully odd if she takes the fifth on every single question. That's going to be, I don't think jurors are going to like that. And how is she going to answer some of these questions if the theme for the O'Keefe civil trial lawyers should be Karen Reed is a pathological liar, an emotional manipulator, an emotional abuser. But if they go with the same theme that the stupid theme that the state went with was that she was so jealous, that even Karen Reed herself put out, the idea that, oh yeah, I'm really jealous. That will tell you yourself that will tell you in and itself that was useful for Karen Reed. The fact that she used that. There's no evidence that she cared about Bella's mom or anything else. She found out about that through evidence. There's no evidence that she heard it over her phone lines or John O'Keefe's phone was playing through her stereo system. There's no evidence of that. And I'll walk back on that if I'm wrong. If someone gives testimony that, like, it would have to be Karen Reed, that John O'Keefe's phone was playing and that she heard Bella's mom mentioned and it just set her off. I just don't believe it. Karen Reed used tactics of emotional manipulation that included gaslighting, isolation. We know that John O'Keefe always had a pre-Christmas party at his house. And that before he was telling his friends not to come because Karen was worried about her parents getting affected with COVID. It would only be the family that year, the year before she murdered him. She was isolating him from his friends and his friends. His family could come, Well, she went to the Bruins game without a mask, went to pubs without a mask. She didn't care about that. But just to keep John O'Keefe's close friends away from the pre-Christmas party at his house, thing that they always enjoyed. So that's, and she controlled his life. She never left him alone for a minute. If you look at the pattern of text messages, he said, stop calling, stop texting me. I'm off to the doctors. My dad's here. And it didn't stop her. She never respected his boundaries, his space. And when she also changed the subject and pointed the finger at John O'Keefe when he put the finger on her. Oh, you know, I'm having a hard time. She played the victim. So when he would say, like, look, I'm not into fighting all the time. She's like, well, things have been hard for me. Things have been hard for me. It's really hard for me. And we know that she also has a pattern. Maybe in this civil deposition, she can answer questions about all her illnesses, her brain tumor, John O'Keefe's. She seems to have illnesses that affect the loved ones of the people around her. So she says she has MS. John O'Keefe's good friend, Jen McCabe, has MS, right? Brain tumor. John O'Keefe's sister died of a brain tumor. Brian Higgins, she said, I've had, 10, 12 surgeries for colon cancer when Brian Higgins' father died of colon cancer. Where her illnesses start and end, if they exist at all, we never saw her sick, not one day during the trial. We saw her look tired, but never ill. Would be a good route for a civil attorney to ask questions about. Also, another good thing for them to ask about is this plumber, Richie the plumber. Does anybody remember Richie the plumber, her tale? So the last hour and 10 minutes, John O'Keefe and Karen Reed were talking about this plumber, Richie, that she had over to fix her hot water issue. Now, we don't know if Richie really exists, if he was ever called, texted, and that made John O'Keefe mad because his dad is a plumber and he could have fixed it for free. And we saw in the trial, early on in the trial, Michael Camerano bringing this up. Let's take a listen.
That anything was wrong between Karen and John, correct?
No.
Everything seemed fine between the two of them, right?
Yes, he did mention though that night that he didn't understand why Karen had a plumber go to the house.
Because he had somebody that could have done that work instead of paying for the plumber, right?
Well, yes.
Why doesn't he say yes, his father? Yes, his father. His father would have done it for free. And this plumber, and the way innocence fraud works, the narratives that are ghosted are usually the important narratives for the killer to hide. Why would it be important for Karen to hide this plumber? Because it shows her to be a real pathological liar, that we know she is. It's not like we don't have other instances of Karen Reed lying. I saw him go in the house through the front door, through the side door. I didn't do a 3-point turn. I did do a 3-point turn. So are they going to ask questions in this civil case about this plumber? Good question. Innocence Fraud Watch wants to know. She says, contrary to evidence during a pre-recorded Unsolved Productions TV show entitled, ridiculously, disgustingly titled, I'd say, A Body in the Snow, the Karen Reed trial. Karen Reed said the following about Friday, January 28, 2022. I realized I didn't want to be shut in here with the snow. No, John O'Keefe was saying that to her. Like, Karen, no one's going anywhere. She said the plumber's coming back tomorrow. She's like, no one's going anywhere. Plumber's not coming back tomorrow. He's going to Home Depot for a part. But Karen Reed allegedly had a 5 p.m. appointment with a Mansfield plumber called Richie due to what she referred to deal with her, what she referred to as her hot water issues. I'm having issues with my hot water, so I had to text someone to take a look. I have always told you I will, and this guy Richie fixed it the last time. Apparently, according to Karen Reed, she even put in some flourishes that he always puts on the toilet seats crooked when he finishes his work. I have always told you I will not put either of you out of your way the way everyone else in your life does. I know it wasn't working right when you left, when you were at the doctor's with Kaylee, and I have neither of you could get here. And the guy Richie fixed it last time, whatever it was. He was supposed to be here at 5. Contrary to the evidence, Karen Reed also stated, I'd rather be up there with John and the kids and doing something fun, and we always had fun on the weekends. Contrary to that, she was telling John O'Keefe in those text messages written on the last day of his life that the kids made them toxic, that the 4 of them together were toxic, that Karen Reed and John O'Keefe weren't toxic, but once you added the kids made things toxic. Great question for a civil lawyer, too. Why did the kids make things toxic? But at 3:04:24, Karen Reed also stated to John O'Keefe about his kids, I'm paranoid now. I am paranoid now that everything I do with them is problematic. So rather see you for a minute without kids around. And at 5:06, Karen Reed said, the 4 of us, oh, this is what I just referred to. I don't want to keep having this constant conflict of the dynamic, Karen says. This constant conflict of the dynamic of the 4 of us. Rather just meet you out for drinks when you figure out what your night might look like. Then at 8:33:16, Karen Reed had messaged John O'Keefe. She says, I think the 4 of us together is toxic to this relationship, would like to limit it. I mean, how do you think John O'Keefe took to hearing that his kids made their relationship toxic? Not too well. He had a very tight relationship with Kaylee and Patrick. William Reed called, and then she said that she talked to her dad. Either I called my father or he called me at 6 o'clock, and he said, how was your day? What are you up to? And I told him what happened. And I hated complaining about John to my parents because they liked him a lot. And my father just said gently to me, Karen, why don't you stay home tonight? It's going to snow. But I didn't. Dad, if I had listened to you, none of this would have happened. I wouldn't have had to run over John O'Keefe going 24 miles an hour in reverse. My foot 74.5% down on the gas pedal. And then left him to die alone in a blizzard. Karen Reed told John O'Keefe that Richie had gone to Home Depot and he would probably return mañana. Why were there no calls from Karen Reed to her plumber on January 29th, 2022? Did Karen Reed text her plumber to reschedule instead of calling him like she alleged to John O'Keefe she had done the day before? Did Karen Reed tell her father, William Reed, or mother, Janet Reed, about her alleged issues with her hot water on January 28th? By the time Karen Reed spoke to her father at around 6 p.m. on January 28th, Richie was allegedly 1 hour late. Did Karen tell her father she was waiting on her plumber and he was late? Will William Reed be asked about Karen Reed's Mansfield plumber, Richie, during his deposition for wrongful death civil suit? And if Karen Reed only had lukewarm shower water and no hot water running to her sink, like she told John O'Keefe, when did Richie repair the piece? Which Karen Reed said was all rusted. And okay, I don't know. He showed me some piece and it was all rusted. I don't understand half of this stuff. That's what she told John O'Keefe in a text. Karen Reed already knew it was going to snow because John O'Keefe told her about the impending blizzard in a message at 5:04:19. Well, there's a blizzard coming, so we'll be inside all weekend. All inside with the toxic children, right? Around an hour before she spoke to her father. In fact, Karen Reed had replied to John O'Keefe just 26 seconds later saying, it will be over by noon tomorrow. So why did Karen Reed choose to leave John O'Keefe mortally wounded, laying on the darkened corner of the yard of 34 Fairview Road near a cluster of trees after reversing into him with her SUV, knowing of the impending blizzard? Did Karen Reed tell Carrie Curran about her issues with my hot water and her plumber called Richie? And will Carrie be asked about this during her deposition? Good question. Did Karen Reed tell Karina Kolokithis, that real snake in the grass, and Jennifer McCabe about her alleged issue with my hot water plumber, my hot water and her plumber called Richie while she was in the waterfall? So Karina Kolokithis was someone who came out. She's married to a lawyer who took Karen Reed's side. She was friends with both John O'Keefe and Karen Reed and testified in a way favorable to Karen Reed, saying that there's something odd about the way Jen invited her to the house for a get-together after the bars closed. Less than 2.5 hours before she spoke to Karina Kolokithis and Jennifer McCabe, Karen Reed had spent over 1 hour and 10 minutes texting John O'Keefe about her alleged plumbing issues. Why didn't Karen Reed mention anything about her alleged issues with my hot water and her plumber called Richie in her 12:55:31 a.m. and 12:55:51 a.m. messages to John O'Keefe's iPhone on January 29th? Gretchen Voss stated in her September 27th, 2023 Tale for Boston Magazine, headed the Karen Reed case in Canton, the killing that tore a town apart. For 3 days after finding John O'Keefe dying in the snow, Reed laid up, curled up at her parents' couch in Dighton. We all know that this was a blatant lie because Karen Reed was out and about in Canton with a private investigator on January 30th. However, who let Karen's plumber Richie into her Mansfield home? She stayed at her parents' house in Dighton for 3 days. Did Karen Reed ever mention her alleged issues with my hot water at her house in Mansfield or her plumber called Richie to Gretchen Voss in June, July 2023? And did Karen Reed tell the private investigator who she retraced her steps with on January 30th, 2022 about her alleged issues with my hot water and the rusted pipe piece? And did the private investigator from January 30th, who traced his Karen Reed's steps with her, did he pick her up from Karen's house in Dighton or her own house in Mansfield? And where did he drop her back off? If during the course of the evening of January 28th, 2022, Karen Reed changed her mind, I've always told you I will not put either of you out, quote unquote, statement to John O'Keefe, and she just decided to take John up on his offer to fix her alleged issue with my hot water, why has Karen Reed never mentioned it? And if Karen Reed supposedly had Richie, her plumber, coming over at 5 p.m., why did she wait almost 2.5 years before telling John O'Keefe? Why did she wait almost 2.5 hours? 2.5 hours before telling John O'Keefe. If Karen Reed supposedly had Richie or plumber coming at 5 p.m., why did she wait almost 2.5 hours before telling John O'Keefe? Did Karen Reed use her Richie the Mansfield plumber tale to exert power and control over John O'Keefe? Did Karen Reed expect John O'Keefe to drop everything and drive to Mansfield instead of going out with Michael Camerano? And did Karen Reed tell John O'Keefe she had contacted a plumber to undermine his sense of self-worth by belittling his abilities? Why didn't Karen Reed drive to her own house in Mansfield? This is a really good question. Why didn't she drive to her own house in Mansfield after driving from 34 Fairview Road, ready for her alleged plumbing issues to be resolved mañana? So why, after running over John O'Keefe, didn't she go to her own house? Why did she go to John O'Keefe's house where she was unwanted and uninvited? I mean, she was invited with John O'Keefe, but after she ran him over, she snuck in. She certainly didn't have his permission to being there. He wasn't able to give it because she had mortally wounded him. Why didn't Karen Reed claim John O'Keefe's feelings on the night of January 20? Why did Karen Reed claim John O'Keefe's feelings on the night of January 28th about her alleged plumbing issues were irrelevant? The Commonwealth similarly elicited irrelevant testimony from O'Keefe's friend Michael Camerano that O'Keefe mentioned being annoyed with Karen because she didn't ask him to help her fix a plumbing issue at her home. Where is Karen Reed's alleged text to? Why is she so see, this is very telling that in January 5th, her own legal team is looking to bar this kind of evidence coming forward. Why? Because they know it makes her look like the pathological liar that she is. Karen Reed told John O'Keefe she was allegedly expecting Richie, her plumber, to arrive at her house at 481 Gilbert Street, Mansfield at 5 p.m., as can be seen by her timestamp 7:48:01 message to John in the below screenshot. And this guy Richie fixed it the last time, she says. Whatever it was, he was supposed to be here at 5. John O'Keefe texted Karen at 5:04:19, warning her about the blizzard. Well, there's a blizzard coming, so we'll be inside all weekend. It'll be over by tomorrow, she says. And John O'Keefe said to Karen Reed, I told you already, I don't bounce back as quickly as you do after we have a battle. So that's some of the timing of all of this. Here's Karen Reed talking.
Shut in here with the snow. I'd rather be up there with John and the kids and doing something fun. And we always had fun on the weekends. And then at about 6 p.m., either I called my father or he called me and he said, how was your day? What are you up to? And I told him what happened. And I hated complaining about John to my parents because they liked him a lot. And my father just said gently to me, Karen, why don't you stay home tonight? It's going to snow. But I didn't.
Oh, she didn't. Dad, if I had listened to you, she says. Here, let me see if I can play it.
Dad, if I listened to you, none of this would have happened.
None of this would have happened. Is it her dad's fault or her fault?
The day after he died on January 30th, David told me I needed to hire a private investigator, and I did right away. And on January 30th, he drove to my parents. It was still snowing the day after John was killed. My PI picked me up and he said, we need to go retrace your steps.
You did that on the 30th?
I did it on the 30th. And it was...
You did that on the 30th? We thought you were crying uncontrollably on your parents' couch. What happened?
One of the worst days of my life. No disrespect to my PI, who I love. And I'm sure he did.
He helped me out a lot, get away with murder. I love that PI.
It's equally uncomfortable, but I could barely even get ready to leave. I'd just cleaned up for the first time. I'd still up until that point, still had John's blood in my hair. I didn't have any clothes because I didn't think I
Are we supposed to believe that Karen Reed didn't wash for 2 days after murdering John O'Keefe?
wasn't going back to John's house. And
Or could she not wash because she had no hot water?
and we retraced my steps,
There was no hot water at her parents' house either.
and I drove by John's house, and there had to have been 20 cars, maybe more, wrapped around the block. And I felt like I was looking in on my life from the sky. That window, all my things are in there. I was just in there with him, and now I'm gone, and he's gone, and he's never going back. And they're mourning him, and I'm not there. And so those first few months,
Right, I'm not there to control the narrative.
I think I started to get my sea legs.
I thought she started getting them right away, according to her brother. Right?
I don't mean to be rude.
So that is that. Also, so I hope that this is the narrative for the O'Keefe civil trial lawyers. If anybody wants to talk to me behind the scenes, someone who really understands innocence fraud, happy to talk to you behind the scenes. Roberta Glass 23, if any of John O'Keefe's friends or family want to talk to me on the air or off, I'm happy to help. Because Karen Reed is going to come equipped, and she knows her case, and the witnesses should know it. And the theme, if there is a deposition of Karen Reed, the theme should be, one of the themes should be holding Karen Reed accountable for her pathological lying and emotional manipulation of John O'Keefe. Because the end result, unfortunately, of a lot of domestic violence situations is murder. That she had to have the last word. So whatever they argued about sitting in front of 34 Fairview, whether it was Kaylee or the plumber or something else, Karen Reed decided to teach John a lesson, have the last word, and express her anger and turn her anger out on him. So that should be the theme. But instead of getting everything ready for the civil trial, the theme is, let's all wait for the feds to come and enact justice. So let me show you Kate's video. Like, they're going to take care of it. And this has been a mistake that's been done through, I mean, I've been screaming about since the first trial. Someone else is going to take care of this and right the wrongs. Karen, we just got to let the courts take care of everything. And I was screaming, no, speak out. Why aren't any of the O'Keefe family speaking out? I understand that they've signed with Netflix, but I don't think Netflix is going to sue a grieving family for speaking out, for violating a contract. Don't think that will look well, but no one's speaking out about the fact that Karen Reed got away with murder except her John O'Keefe's cousin, Vanessa Rizzitano. Really? Doesn't look good. All right, here we go. This is, I think, what is a huge distraction. So this is a theme that I have noticed in other trials. There's always who comes along to be the savior of the victims or the witnesses in a case, usually the victims or the victim's family, and they have their own agendas. So Kate Peter has her own agenda that she hates Turtle Boy and wants to enact revenge. She's been promising that he's going to get arrested, do jail time. He has gotten arrested, but he's done just a very scant jail time, but always arrested. He's going to be in handcuffs. He's going to be doing same thing that she said about Karen Reed. She's going to get convicted. She's going to be going to prison. It's all been wishful thinking. One big line of wishful thinking and a distraction for the witnesses who should be getting their evidence together. Michael Camerano, I mean, did you see the way that he delivered that? I mean, he timidly expressed just the bare minimum. It looks like Catherine Camerano and Michael Camerano, the way they come off is so weak that they don't want to be responsible for sending Karen Reed to prison. And now that that's off the table, I hope that they'll share more, especially Catherine Camerano, about what Karen Reed told them that morning. There's long phone calls, I mean, relatively long phone calls with Catherine Camerano and Karen Reed, where she says, oh, there was so much screaming, I don't know what I heard.
I have no doubt the feds are coming.
Meanwhile, more fallout from the Karen Reed murder trial.
So when Turtle Boy says that he has no doubt that the feds are coming, he means that the feds are coming to, this was the refrain of Free Karen Reed for a long time, that the feds were coming to arrest the real killers, LOL, meaning the witnesses in this case. That, of course, never materialized, and the investigation is eventually now closed. And now we have one woman, Jessica Leslie, going down possibly for leaking information in this case and maybe the CDL case, or maybe just the CDL case. Hard to know. But she's been made an example of.
Grand juror has admitted to leaking information. This is a woman from Drake-It who sat on the federal grand jury that investigated the state's handling of Reed's murder case.
The woman is now admitting that she broke the law by leaking secret information about the Karen Reed case.
On July 15th, the U.S. Department of Justice announced that
Karen Reed has friends. They were at the trial. She didn't do character witnesses. She didn't need to. Character witnesses you'd see in the penalty phase. And since she didn't really face up much of a penalty for DUI, just probation, what she got convicted of was so puny. She didn't need character witnesses, but you would see character witnesses would show up during a penalty phase usually.
That Jessica M. Leslie.
But she does have friends. She has, I mean, that's another lie that sort of went around. Karen Reed has no friends. She does have friends. She has John Silvera as a friend of hers who gave over $15,000 to her campaign. She has, I've talked also about her friend who showed up at trial. Ingrid Curtis, who's been her friend for a long time. She does have friends. This is something that Kate Peters said that just got sort of repeated around. Karen Reed has no friends. She does have friends.
34-year-old woman from Drake-It, Massachusetts, would plead guilty to 1 count of criminal contempt for leaking federal grand jury information. Her punishment? 2 years of probation and 1 day in jail, waived. Not a single day behind bars, despite admitting to a federal crime that undermines the integrity of the grand jury system. What makes this even more fascinating is the context. The only individuals known to have leaked specific grand jury details in the Karen Reed case, like witness names and testimony, are Aiden Kearney, aka Turtle Boy, in public, and Aiden and Karen Reed in private, according to their own text.
No, they're also John Silvera. I played some of Natalie Bernschneider-Wawicki was sharing, said that John Silvera sent out a text with grand jury information. But once he received it, who he received it from, I mean, I don't know how the law goes as how broadly you have to share it. Does it have to be public? Does it making it public? Is it sharing it amongst your friends?
text messages.
But there's just one issue with that. That was the story that they gave police. However, we know now that Caitlin Albert testified in front of the federal grand jury, according to my sources at Moakley Courthouse, who saw them go in there and testify in front of the grand jury over the summer. I believe it was around July.
Leslie's charge fits into that pattern like a glove. Yet instead of the DOJ throwing the book at her, they handed her a cushion. Let's rewind. Kearney's digital devices, 6 phones.
So what happens? So what happens if I'm wrong and this is bigger and what, Aidan Kearney gets another charge? He's got very good lawyers. I'm not convinced he's going to be convicted of anything. Clearly, he said he had sources at from the federal grand jury. Why would they, where this confuses me, why would they just publicly release this low-level person and then give Aidan Kearney time to delete any kind of evidence that he has? Why wouldn't they just indict everybody altogether if they wanted to, if they had evidence of it? And as far as Signal apps and retrieving deleted text on Signal apps, do you think that the Attorney General's office that has done nothing but Karen Reed's bidding is going to turn around and pursue something so politically unfavorable? They have to get elected as go after Turtle Boy or Karen Reed. This is not popular in this state. Everybody loves Karen Reed. They treat her like Lady Diana.
Phones and 2 laptops were seized back in October 2023 as part of ongoing state-level witness intimidation cases. He spent the last 2 years trying to block police from searching them. That fight ended on May 30th, 2025, when a judge rejected nearly all of his privilege claims, except for attorney-client communications, and ordered his team to provide a list of search terms to filter out privileged material. His lawyer did so on June 2nd. Just 5 weeks later, on July 11th, the feds filed a criminal information in U.S. District Court, a telltale sign a plea deal was imminent. 4 days after that, Leslie waived her right to a grand jury indictment, pleaded guilty, and walked away with a sweetheart deal that doesn't even touch the low end of federal.
Okay, she says doesn't even touch the low end of federal sentence. I'm going to talk about those federal sentences, recommended sentences in a second.
Sentencing guidelines, which recommend 6 to 12 months for her offense level, even after point deductions.
So they can go much lower or much higher. And in New York, if you go like beyond 3 times the recommended level, then you can appeal much faster. I don't know about Massachusetts, but no judge has to listen to recommended guideline sentences. So what Kate Peter is saying is that the only logical inference, the fact that she got such a light sentence, is that she's given a lot of favorable information on other people that are soon to be indicted. And I've heard these rumblings behind the scenes that big people are coming for Karen. I find it all since she got off on murder. So I think it's all wishful thinking on our part, on this side's part. This is a very, there are many reasons why a judge will go under the recommended sentence. First of all, the government and the defense are both in agreement that she should serve no time. So it could be a very low offense. Do you know what I mean? It's essentially a slap on the wrist and making her an example of. I would think we would see indictments coming, all at the same time, not, one at a time. like this? If they really found all this evidence of everyone else, what are they waiting for?
It hit the media and was quickly connected to the Karen Reed case. And after that came the backpedaling, the lies, the kind of reaction you would expect from someone who could very well end up charged with a federal crime. Aidan Kearney, who for years proudly flaunted his access to insider information from the federal grand jury.
I get emails all the time from people who serve on federal and state grand juries. They're not supposed to, yeah. But that's the beauty. That's fucking Turtle Boy. That's what Turtle Boy is all about.
Just know that I know shit you don't know. For all the people who doubt me, how did I know that Allie McCabe testified in front of the grand jury before everyone else did? How did I know that she was down there in Moakley Courthouse? How did I know the exact date that Colin Albert was down there? How did I know that? How did I know that Caitlin Albert and Brian Albert Jr. were down there? How did I know that Jen McCabe was with her daughter in the courthouse?
I'm not disagreeing with Kate here. But again, Kate has a need to get revenge on Turtle Boy. She used to work with him. You can go back to my interview with her. But, she has her own motivations. You see this in, people glom onto these things and they white knight for the victim's family or the victims, and they have their own motivations, and they're hugely destructive to getting justice for the victims because they're not in alignment. So we saw in the Nexium story, the whistleblower in that case, or one of the bloggers in that case came forward, and his whole desire was to see Keith Raniere go down for personal reasons. And he ended up working for, this is the rumor, and it sure looked like it from the outside, sometimes he would work for Nexium, sometimes he would work for the victims of Nexium, fighting Nexium. I mean, it's just never, you deal with people with, Kate Peters self-describes as a sociopath. These victims have already dealt with Karen Reed, who I think is a sociopath. It's not a good idea. I would say the best thing for the victims in this case and the witnesses in this case is to get as far away from Kate Peters as possible.
When they went down,
nothing. I personally found her very charming, but I think she's very destructive.
There. How did I know the names Adam Deach and Joshua Levy? How did I know all of this stuff, guys? How did I know all this? It's almost like I have sources. It's almost like I have people on the ground reporting back to me about what they're seeing in real life. So just know that when I say that the federal grand jury is not even close to being over, it is not even close to being over. They are gaslighting you. I am telling you as a 100% matter of fact that they're nowhere close to done. Is there another grand jury for the Albert, McCabe, and Proctor one? Yes. So there's two grand juries. There's the grand jury that indicted Karen Reed, and then there's the federal grand jury at Moakley Courthouse that Jen McCabe and several others got subpoenaed to.
I saw what you did.
I saw what you, first of all, the context of this is hilarious when you realize that just a couple days prior to this, he's under so much stress because his son Colin testified in front of the federal grand jury, I believe on July 14th or 13th, and this happened on July 16th. And then on July 18th, Colin was interviewed by the state police for the first time. July is when a lot of shit started going down.
Suddenly began walking it all back. In a live stream following Leslie's plea, he denied any involvement or knowledge of the leak, despite mountains of past content suggesting otherwise.
We want to follow up on those leads because we don't know anything about the federal grand jury. Like Karen's whole legal defense team was basically in the dark. The feds didn't tell them much at all. The feds never told them a thing. The feds would ask them questions and they could glean information from the kind of questions they were asked, but they never knew specifics about.
But we also know the feds were also feeding their witnesses information during a sequestration order. It's so hard to say. Sequestration order. So meaning that none of the witnesses were allowed to watch the other witnesses' testimony, but the feds just went around that and called Karen Reed's witnesses, hired guns from Marca, essentially, and fed them all the testimony from the Commonwealth's witnesses. So now the federal government is going to be the hero of anti-Karen Reed? Really? Really? Or are they going to throw, or is bringing Jessica Leslie down, just throwing them a bone and saying, we did something, we ruined this small level player's life. See, we did something, we cracked down, did something, and move away. See, Turtle Boy is going to have to face charges. I'm not convinced he's going to get convicted of anything.
What they were actually doing or anything like that, right? Until they got the TUI report. They had no idea what was going on. And so when Karen Reed and her defense team sees somebody posting online that they claim to be a federal grand juror, they're like, well, that's interesting information. We'd like to learn more about that. 2 years ago, Aidan Carney learned about a potential source of leaked information from the federal grand jury associated with the federal investigation. No. I saw a fucking comment, Dara, on a Facebook group. That's all. Turtle Boy's live video from July 2023 seems very relevant 2 years ago. No, dipshit, Dara, it doesn't. I know who she leaked to because I talked to the woman one of the many people she sent this information to about CDLs. You fucking retard. Oh my God. Stop with the internet detective shit. Just let daddy fucking report. That's what I fucking do. You're not a fucking reporter, Dara. You're not. You're some fucking idiot on Twitter who can't shut the fuck up. Okay? Just let daddy fucking handle this because this is what I fucking do. I couldn't say at the time. I speak to Karen Reed regularly. She's the one that's interested in reading this shit. Her defense team would like to learn more about the federal investigation because they don't know much about it. So they like to learn more about it. So when I say trust me, I mean trust me. I'm talking to Karen Reed. Okay? And when I say that, that's me kind of covertly telling you I have something, okay? I can't tell you what that something is, but you need to trust me. Yeah, what that something is I talked to Karen Reed. That's what the something is. I'm publicly pretending like I don't at the time, but I was, and that's what I was saying.
I mean, he lies a lot, but he tells a lot of the truth.
Trust me, I can't tell you that I'm talking to Karen, but I'm talking to Karen. And so we both would like to read more information about this. So just trust me, bro. Just fucking trust me. Just shut the fuck up and trust me. What the fuck is wrong with you? Oh my fucking God. Jesus Christ. Fucking hate these people.
Instead, he claimed that a friend of Leslie's had contacted him to say the FBI only seized her phone 18 months after she posted about an unrelated grand jury case.
That was the thing that got the grand juror in trouble. She didn't post it. She was telling people about it. And I know this because today, right before the show, I was on the phone with somebody who this person sent that information to.
Right. So you have to, I mean, it would be hard to, if you received information and posted and made it public, a grand jury get in trouble for it.
And this individual was visited by the feds about it. About this post. The post had nothing to do with the Karen Reed case. Nothing. And they came with receipts. And they're like worried about it. Like the FBI showed up at their door, wanted to look at her phone. It's a fucking, it is a buzzkill.
Concerning CDL license fraud on an anonymous Twitter account with fewer than 1,000.
I mean, he would be so excited if he were even the subject of a federal grand jury investigation. He's like, it's a buzzkill. Yeah. Nothing exciting is happening in the Karen Reed case. It's a buzzkill to me.
And followers. This, despite every major outlet reporting that Leslie's charge stems from the Karen Reed investigation. Later, the story evolved.
When Jen McCabe testified, how would he know this? Of course he's involved. So I did have a source at Moakley who actually works there.
Kearney admitted he had a source on the grand jury, but now it wasn't Jessica Leslie. It was allegedly a court employee. And yes, he confirmed he's had frequent communication with Leslie's friend. This is the same friend he claims had her devices seized by the FBI in relation to this crime, and he admits he has a prior relationship with her.
Now everyone's going to be severely. I had a long talk with the girl today, the source. Not Jessica Leslie. I talked to her friend today, and Jessica Leslie does not. Her lawyer won't let her talk to me. It's just girls gabbing. That's all this was. Like, if your friend was on the federal grand jury, like, you'd want the tea too, and that's all that came down to this. And like, she was just talking to friends and wasn't posting about it, wasn't sending it to me. I had this source. I've talked to her a million times about other stuff. Like, my inbox is full of stuff with her. She never mentioned that she had a friend on the federal grand jury.
Can anyone rationally believe that she forgot to mention that to him? Why would a woman who was allegedly bold enough to leak grand jury details about a minor licensing case never breathe a word to Turtle Boy about the federal grand jury investigating the Karen Reed case, especially when he and Karen themselves?
Yeah, she was probably, she might have been a source for it. But that doesn't mean that he's going down, or Karen Reed's going down, or Karen Reed's lawyers are going down. Let's get into reality, guys. I know with the wishful thinking on this side is out of control. Karen Reed's going to be arrested tomorrow. Karen Reed's going to get convicted of everything. She's going down. I hate to always be, to use Aidan Carney's words, the buzzkill. I think Karen Reed, at this point, Karen Reed's walking away with her civil case, not paying a dime.
Themselves were openly searching for that exact information. To add another layer of implication to this, as of today, July 18th, Kearney and his attorneys are now under federal court order to return all federal discovery materials in their possession and destroy any copies. The math isn't mathing. What we have here is a timeline that looks increasingly inconvenient for Kearney, a criminal plea that couldn't come quicker, a deal that couldn't have been softer, and a cascade of contradictions from someone who once bragged about having
a criminal plea that couldn't have come quicker? Oh, from being indicted? But certainly the indictment came awfully at a snail's pace.
Exactly the kind of access that just sent someone else to federal court. Nothing.
Yeah, but the person who went to federal court was a juror on a federal grand jury, not a blogger, not someone else. Does anyone get the difference?
To see here, you decide.
Yeah, I'll decide. Nothing to see here. I'll keep saying it. Nothing to see here. A bummer. So I'm going to end it there for today. But the witnesses and John O'Keefe's family would be, especially the witnesses, especially I'm speaking to Carrie Roberts, Michael Camerano, Catherine Camerano, would all be better getting their evidence to be the best evidence it can be in the civil case. That is our best chance to ever, if we want to see justice for John O'Keefe. Otherwise, we can stay distractful or stay in wishful thinking land and hope that someone else will come, that, to use Aidan Carney's words, Big Daddy government will come and fix everything for us. Or we can take matters into our own hands, get our evidence up to be the best it can be, and see if we can hold Karen Reed accountable civilly for her murder of John O'Keefe. All right, have a great night, everybody.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment. I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down heart. Now the legal system I clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, gin, like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard, now the legal system I clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim.